Windsor versus the United States 2013.
In 2007, Edith Windsor and Thea Spire went to Ontario, Canada, and were lawfully married. 2 years later, Thea died and left her whole estate to Windsor.
When Windsor tried to claim a federal state tax exemption for surviving spouses, she was denied under the Defense of Marriage Act, DOMA. Section 3, a same-sex partnership wasn't recognized under the definition of a spouse.
Windsor paid the tax but then filed for a refund, claiming that DOMA provision was unconstitutional. This case pertains to discrepancies between state and federal marriage laws.
Windsor appealed to the district court, who ruled that DOMA was unconstitutional. Then the case was tried at the Second Circuit, who affirmed the lower court's ruling.
This case raised three questions. If the executive branch sides with Windsor and believes Section 3 of DOMA is unconstitutional, does a controversy still remain that the court has jurisdiction over?
Also, does the bipartisan legal advisory group, BLAG, of the House of Representatives have a part in this case? Finally, does the definition of marriage under DOMA deny same-sex couples of equal protection under the Fifth Amendment?
The Supreme Court ruled 5-4 in favor of Windsor. The majority opinion was presented by Justice Kennedy. He stated even though the executive branch agreed with lower court rulings, the Supreme Court did have jurisdiction over the case.
If DOMA was upheld, Windsor would have to pay the tax.
If DOMA was overturned, the government would have to refund the tax. Both cases qualified as an injury. The court ruled that DOMA violates due process and equal protection principles.
Because Section 3 excludes same-sex couples from the legal definition of marriage, the law violates the Fifth Amendment and is therefore unconstitutional.
Justice Scalia wrote a dissenting opinion, which Justice Clarence Thomas and the Chief Justice Roberts joined. He stated that the court did not have jurisdiction over the case, nor the power to rule the legislative provision unconstitutional.
He believed that the majority opinion wrongly asserted the Supreme Court's power as the final say of the government matter. Finally, Justice Samuel A. Alito, Jr. presented his own dissent.
He agreed with Scalia in that the court did not have jurisdiction, but reasoned because the executive branch enforced the statute even when they were against it. Because this case determined that a New York state ruling on same-sex marriage could be applied to a federal law, this ruling expanded states' rights.
In changing the definition of marriage, this case doesn't just apply to the surviving spouse tax exemption, but is applicable in a broader spectrum.
Windsor and the executive branch reasoned that the case should be subject to the highest level of scrutiny, arguing that judgment based off of sexual orientation satisfied all four of the requirements for heightened scrutiny. The bipartisan legal advisory group argued that the case be subject to rational basis test, the lowest level of scrutiny. Bragg undercut Windsor's argument for heightened scrutiny by saying same-sex individuals had the support of the Democratic Party, the executive branch, and a majority of Americans.